For many of Newcastle's street kids, the Salvation Army's SOS Centre is the closest thing they have to a home. They come to the Wharf Street building for meals, medical checkups and counselling. But Bob Salmon, the manager of the Lake Macquarie Youth Refuge at Redhead, is critical of the Salvo Centre, saying it supports the street kids' existence.
They're in squats, condemned buildings, the most unhygienic living situations. We feel that they are encouraging this by their assistance.
But Wally Rose from the Salvo's SOS Centre disagrees.
We try to help support street kids who have no other place to go.
Mr Salmon says the Hunters Youth Refuges aim to instil discipline in their residents, such as making them attend school. But the SOS Centre, he says, undermines those efforts.
I feel the encouragement to use squats, and it is an encouragement, defeats the whole purpose of places like this, will give us an ever-increasing amount of street kids.
No, we're not trying to take away from responsibility being taught by refugees.
The street kids say that if services such as the SOS Centre were to disappear, it doesn't mean that they would too. It would simply create another problem of just where they would find food and support.
And there's a lot of different places around, but not really any for the younger kids. So, I mean, I've known some that, they just took off back to King's Cross.
If we weren't here, who would look after the kids? They would be in the squats anyway.
Cup spirit was bubbling over in the Hunter as well. A blazing sun made those once-a-year hats functional as well as fashionable, and there were plenty of people who found a reason to take the day off work.
Hairdresser's picnic day, so we're going to live it up.
Those who couldn't invaded the TAB at lunchtime. Local agencies employed 150 extra staff to cope with the most hectic day of the year. Do you usually bet on the horses?
No, never ever.
No mate, only today for Melbourne Cup.
This is the first time ever.
Hunter TAB agencies expect to take almost $3 million today, and about 2/3 of that will be riding on the big race. With a class field of 24 runners, there's only one sure winner, the New South Wales Government, which will pocket 16 cents from every dollar wagered. For anyone dreaming of lunch on the Yarra, there was always the South Stain, where the fashions rivalled the Flemington car park. Many had begun the day with a champagne breakfast, and a later than usual race time took its toll. Still, as 3:30 approached, it seemed everyone was able to find a spot in front of a screen to watch the big one, and a field full of strong chances kept punters guessing.
What's going to win the Cup?
Just a dancer. Superimpose.
What's going to win the Melbourne Cup?
Shivers Revenge.
Let's elope. Oh, let's elope, baby.
Who could resist an offer like that? A dramatic protest by Shane Dye, jockey of second-placed Shivers Revenge, left plenty of punters with a nervous wait, but its dismissal had them queuing up to collect. The publicans had been doing the same thing all day. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
It was a perfect day for the $18,000 Cup. 5,000 people packed the grounds, some there to make their fortune, some simply for a social day out. But coming up to 3:30, interest moved to a certain event down south. With Melbourne's Cup out of the way, betting firmed for the local derby. Muswellbrook money was on 4-year-old Genomi. Owner Andrea Ryan bought him as a foal for just $200.
He's paid for himself, his training, and he's won just over 75,000 altogether.
Can't complain about that.
Not at all.
But out on the track, it was another story. Newcastle horse Golden Dome took the race with odds of 5-2 from Canton Parlour at 4s and Pride of Donegal at 9-4. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Three Wimbledon titles, 2 US Opens, 2 Australian Opens and countless doubles championships, in all 32 Pro Tour singles victories, makes John Newcombe OBE one of the most decorated players of all time. His opponent today, Rachel McQuillan, has won 2 tournaments, performed well at the Australian Open for the past 2 years and represented her country in the Federation Cup. Rachel is currently ranked 36 in the world. For Jovial John, it's not the first time he's played a McQuillan in Newcastle. Around 1964, Nuke played Rachel's father, Ted. And the way the blonde beauty began today, Newcombe's next win may have been a long way off. Rachel was everywhere to set up a 3-1 lead. Nuke sprang into action on the back of his brilliant serve to grab a break and close the gap. The wily veteran was trying to level the score at 4-all, but Rachel had the drop on Nuke for 5-3. Never Say Die Newcombe then reeled off 2 games in succession to level the match at 5-all and send the set to an early tie-break. In a heart-stopper, both players had chances to take the match but couldn't convert until Newcombe prevailed 11-9.
It's just struggling around out there, Mike, but that was good fun and nice warm weather, and I really enjoyed having the hit against Rachel.
Looked a bit serious out there at times.
Well, you know, I mean, I suppose I had to start to get serious there to stay in it there for a while. It didn't look too good.
For the second year in a row, Rachel has lost to a legend in a tie-break, but she's anything but upset.
It's a great opportunity for me to play against them, and I think it will help my tennis career. I think they've got a few great ideas, and I'm glad John could come up this week and play me.
Shortland County Council's special meeting produced a mixture of old and new faces among the top positions. Incumbent Chairman Dennis Nichols was re-elected unopposed, but the stranglehold that males have had on the council for a century is slowly being prized open. There's now 3 female delegates, including the election of Mercia Buck to the position of Deputy Chairperson.
It means a symbol out there to the community for other women to become involved in community affairs and to work towards coming into positions like this.
A letter from the State Minister for Planning and Energy, Robert Webster, was also tabled at the meeting, declaring Shortland County Council the best in the state for fulfilling its performance agreement. This arrangement between the government and each of the 25 councils in New South Wales covers about 20 areas such as return on assets. Alderman Nichols says while Shortland County Council has performed well in the past 12 months, the acid test will come this year as the recession bites.
Because it is starting to impact on our industrial consumers, and of course that's something that the whole community needs to be concerned about, because it not only means concern for Shortland but concern for jobs out there in the community.
Former Bishop Gabriel Garol leads the ecumenical movement for justice and peace in the Philippines. He says when President Cory Aquino was elected in 1986, after the demise of Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, there was great hope for justice in his country. Aquino came to power.
I would say that there has been no fundamental change in so far as the situation is concerned since Cory Aquino assumed power.
Why not?
Human rights violations has not improved. Instead, it has worsened.
Imelda Marcos returned to the Philippines this week after 6 years in exile in the United States. Garol says her return is destabilising the country.
This is so because Imelda still commands following among the loyalists of the late President Marcos.
The former bishop wants to make Australians more aware of human rights abuses in his country. He is encouraging financial aid to be given to reputable non-government organisations. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Frida Booth lost her sight at the age of 17. Although totally blind, she is able to enjoy the pleasure of reading books and magazines thanks to the Blind Society's Talking Book Library. That was an extract from the Women's Weekly. About 400 visually impaired people throughout the Hunter borrow a wide variety of material.
I find it's my recreation because I'm getting older now and I can't do as I used to. And I just find the books are really help me to relax.
The books are recorded by actors at the Blind Society's studios in Sydney. Listeners will soon be able to hear plays recorded on equipment to be purchased with the $25,000 donation from Newcastle's BHP. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The drought hotline at the Maitland Department of Agriculture receives about 20 calls a day from farmers desperately seeking financial relief.
Some of their bills are horrendous, bills of over $15,000, $20,000 just in the last couple of months to keep their stock alive.
But while the hotline can give practical advice, it cannot give trained emotional support to people in dire need of help. Just a month ago, a safety officer was employed part-time by government and private sources, giving farmers some advice on stress management. But incredibly, as the drought worsened to a critical stage, funding for that position dried up. The bureaucrats said they simply couldn't find any more money, but while farmers slip further into debt with the worst dry in 30 years, the social problems can only get worse. Around New South Wales, the federal and state governments employ 21 rural counsellors, but the Hunter has missed out.
There are a lot of people out there now that really do need someone to confide in and just to discuss their situation. So I think the time is right for a rural counsellor.
The long-range weather forecasts are predicting no rain until next year. Crisis meetings have been called at Gresford and Gloucester on Thursday to lobby the politicians to get some professional counselling support for local farmers. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
With the state in the grip of a recession, Singleton residents and businesses have money to build new houses, extensions, factories and shops.
Over the last year, the increase has been about 15%.
The most popular form of residential development is on rural land. The council will be releasing a 24-lot rural residential subdivision. The blocks, ranging in size from between 1 and 2 hectares, will be auctioned next Saturday. Development applications have also been approved for 3 new coal mines in the area and expansion proposals received from several others.
Well, I think on the basis of the number of new mines and extensions to mines that we've approved in the past 12 months, that we're likely to have a reasonably healthy economy in Singleton for at least the next year.
Julian Santos has been shaping glass for more than 4 decades. Born in Portugal, he now works from his studios in Tomago.
The style of my work is a normal functional wear with a special decoration, and the decoration mostly it's discovered, some discovered by me, and other ones is made for thousands of years.
Some of Julian's creations now grace regal homes. The former Governor-General Sir Zelman Cowen gave one of Julian's plates to Prince Charles, and several of his chandeliers hang in Queensland's Government House. A sample of his work is now on show at the Newcastle Region Gallery.
For the past 4 years, the Steelworks Golf Club has raised more than $60,000 for charities such as Ronald McDonald House, the Heart Foundation and the Rescue Helicopter through their NIB Celebrity Tournament. This year, the club and NIB have chosen Tingaira House as their beneficiary.
After we announced we were going to do that, which is a great cause, which is for the deaf and the blind or the partially impaired, that they had that bad fire on that Wednesday, and they've destroyed their playgrounds and around their surrounds, and they've done about $500,000 worth of damage, so it's a marvellous cause.
Last year, Roger Davis was the special guest, and he conducted a coaching clinic before head-off. That clinic will be on again with Cole Johnson passing on a few tips, but the main attraction will be the appearance of the Gold Coast Seagulls coach, Wally Lewis. Everyone is aware of his awesome reputation on the rugby league field. His golf form is a bit of a mystery. But if you have the folding stuff, you could be Wally's playing partner for the day.
We've left one spot for Wally in his group on Monday, and if anyone wants to play with him, all they've got to do is ring through a bid to play with him to me at this golf club by Saturday.
What are you expecting to get for Wally?
Well, we're probably, I hoped, about $300 or $400 for him. It'd be marvellous.
Heddle had his nose rearranged by a ferocious John Macquarie tackle a fortnight ago in the match against Apia, and although able to continue, wasn't his dominant self. A key link in the Breakers' attacking moves, Heddle is fit and keen to resume his responsible role.
It's fine now, operation on Tuesday. I just took the plaster cast off yesterday, but it's a bit tender, but hopefully I should be okay for tonight's game.
For the past couple of weeks, the Breakers have found it difficult to find the back of the net after making plenty of chances. One of the pluses is the service the strikers are getting from either side of the park, and coach Bruce Stow will continue with that method of attack.
Bruce obviously is playing wide, so it gets service out wide, and it's our job then to take our men on and try and get service in for the boys coming into the box. So hopefully they'll start finishing off.
While the Breakers are determined to go forward, the men up front can rest easy that a local lad will be rock solid in defence. Andy Roberts came into the side and immediately settled in, at the same time realising an ambition.
It's been a dream of mine to play National League football for Newcastle. Coming up as a youngster, watching KB United and so on, it's always been a dream of mine to play National League soccer for Newcastle, and I'm enjoying it, having the time of my life.
Roberts was man of the match against Apia, but now his attention is firmly fixed on gaining a win at home.
Coming off a good result last week against Melita, it's really time for us to get a win at home and be consistent. We need to win our home games and maybe pick up a few draws away and maybe the occasional win. But we need to win at home. We need to be consistent. So I think this will be the turning point for us if we win tonight, yes.
Two parachutists died and 8 others were injured when the single-engined Pilatus Porter crashed at Jasper's Brush airstrip on Tuesday afternoon. All on board were experienced parachutists assigned to a crack SAS unit. Taking off on their 6th sortie of the day, something went horribly wrong. Private John Henderson of Newcastle, stationed at the HMAS Albatross, suffered neck injuries in the crash but has few recollections of the tragic events about him.
I remember the plane taking off and soon after going into a bit of a steep bank, and one of my mates said, "Hang on fellas, we're going in," and that's it. I remember after that waking up in the hospital about 6 hours later.
While air safety investigators continue to probe the crash and the future of the ageing Porter is still in doubt, Private Henderson is getting out after 4 years in the Army.
I think it might be time for discharge. I've put my discharge papers in several months ago, so I don't think there'll be any change there.
No, but keen to take up parachuting, yeah?
I'm going to be up in the air as soon as possible again, but I think my military career is practically over.
2 of his colleagues remain in Sydney hospitals in serious condition. Private Henderson says it will take some time for the mental scars to heal.
Every now and then something happens that makes you turn around and think about it. This has had that effect for all of us.
These men are already training for work at the Australian Submarine Corporation's Tomigo plant, and if all goes well in the Philippines, they could soon be joined by hundreds more.
My plan is to make much greater use of contractors in the shipbuilding process than Carrington's did here in the past, and I think therefore overall we must think in terms of 400 or 500 jobs peaking out of this sort of work.
A consortium will travel to the Philippines within the next few weeks in a bid to close the deal. They'll be backed by an offer of a $145 million loan from the Australian government.
Having that finance approved, rather than saying it's likely to be approved, allows our people to go back to the Philippines and push forward for the other committees to make their final decisions, and so that we can get to a final stage.
But Cabinet approval apparently wasn't a formality. A relieved federal member for Newcastle today revealed 4 government departments had opposed the offer.
They don't approve all of the approaches made, but it would have been a fairly savage blow to us, because it does offer a tremendous opportunity for us to compete and market into Asia, particularly in the smaller vessel line.
Hopes are now high the Filipino contract will be the first of many such deals for the area.
I was in Hong Kong earlier this year, and I was being told up there that the market in Southeast China Sea is for about 200 ferries over the next 5 years. And of course we built terrific ferries.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.